ghost on Highway 17. Jake Healy and his truck, a dark blue Kenworth 18-wheeler, had rolled across nearly every interstate in America for the past 20 years. For Jake, trucking wasn't just a way to make a living. It was a philosophy of solitude. He loved the stillness of the night, the feeling that the world was asleep while he alone kept the great machine of life moving. Tonight, he was on Interstate 17 in Arizona, a long, endless stretch of asphalt cutting through harsh desert and bone-dry mountains. North of Phoenix, there were no lights, no rest stops, just a velvet black sky filled with billions of cold, distant stars. The dashboard clock read 3:05 a.m. The coffee had long stopped working, and Jake was relying on a small stimulant pill, one he'd promised himself would be his last one ever, to fight off the fog of exhaustion. His mind drifted somewhere between alertness and hallucination. He couldn't tell if the dark shapes whipping past his headlights were cactus shadows, or something else. Then the static crackle of his CB radio sliced through the silence like ice breaking underfoot. "Anybody out there? This is Desert Fox, mile marker 215. I need confirmation. Anyone else see that weird crap? A bicycle? Red racing bike moving on its own in the emergency lane heading north. Someone screwing with me?" Jake frowned. "A bicycle out here? Hundreds of miles from the nearest gas station?" He grabbed the mic, his voice roughened by years of caffeine and highway dust. "This is Wanderer, mile 218. Nothing on my end, buddy. Maybe pour another cup of joe, or catch a nap." "A self-riding bike? Sounds like a joke from the 70s. The voice came back, trembling, stripped of any humor. "I'm not kidding. It's an old Schwinn, curved handlebars. I swear to God, it's pedaling itself. No wires, no rider. It's coming your way, Wanderer, and there's something next to it. Something white. I'm stepping on it. Good luck, brother." Then, static. Just static. Jake lowered the mic slowly. Joke or not, the fear in that man's voice was real. His knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. He knew that in these dead hours, when fatigue blurred the edges of reality, the mind could play tricks. But if it wasn't just his mind, what then? Jake eased down his speed, muttering to himself, "Mile 216. Zweifender. No bike. Nothing." But at mile marker 217, he instinctively tapped the brakes. The high beams of his Kenworth lit up a figure standing on the shoulder. A girl, alone under a thin crescent moon. She couldn't have been more than 17 or 18. She wore a white summer dress, old-fashioned, fluttering slightly in the cold desert wind, and she was barefoot. She faced away from him, staring into the darkness of the desert, her long black hair spilling down her back. Every instinct told Jake to keep driving, but the fatherly ache in his chest wouldn't let him. "Solitude's one thing," he muttered. "Being abandoned's another." He pulled the air brake. The hiss of compressed air filled the night, and the 18-wheeler rumbled to a halt. Rolling down his window but keeping the engine running, he called out, "Hey, you lost, kid? Where's your car? It's not safe out here. Hop in, I'll get you to the next stop. Rattlesnake Grill's just a few miles up. They've got a warm meal and a bed." The girl turned around, and in that instant Jake wished to God he'd kept driving. Her face was young, beautiful even, but her eyes weren't eyes. They were black, flat voids, not brown or blue or green, just holes where light went to die. Her dress under the headlights wasn't just torn, it was soaked. Stained dark brownish red like old blood and mud mixed together. She said nothing, just slowly raised her right hand and pointed behind him. Jake turned, glancing at the right mirror. Nothing but empty night. When he looked back, she was gone. But she wasn't. She was standing directly in front of the truck, inches from the chrome grille. Pure terror, raw and physical, seized Jake's chest. He could see the torn skin on her arms, the still wet stains on her legs. She lifted her left hand ever so slowly and tapped one finger against the grille. Tuck. The sound was cold and hollow, like bone against metal. Jake didn't think. He slammed the gas pedal to the floor. The Kenworth roared, tires spinning before gripping the asphalt and launching forward into the night. He didn't look in the mirrors. He didn't blink. He drove like a man possessed. 10 miles later, his panic ebbed just enough for him to glance in the mirror. The road was empty. He exhaled shakily, wiped the sweat from his face, but his hand kept trembling. He flicked the wipers. Nothing. Then he saw it. Right there, dead center on the windshield. A small reddish-brown handprint, child-sized, smudged but unmistakable. He tried wiping it with a tissue. It wouldn't budge. Not dirt, it had seeped into the glass, and beside it, a hairline crack embedded in that crack, was a severed pinky finger, still with a chipped pale pink nail. Jake screamed, a raw broken sound anchor, and stomped the brakes. The rig skidded, but there was no crash. He didn't need to look. He knew. Whatever that talk had been, it wasn't a greeting. It was her marking her spot. Jake didn't linger. He couldn't. He gunned the engine, tearing south down I-17. He tried to throw the severed finger out the window, but each time he touched it, a freezing pain shot up his arm, so he dropped it. It stayed there on the cab floor by the gear shift. A tiny horrifying reminder that what happened was real. He checked his mirrors. Nothing but black highway. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that something was with him. At mile 240, he spotted lights, a roadside diner called the Rattlesnake Grill. Civilization. He stumbled inside, pale and trembling. The waitress, a woman in her 60s named Martha, gave him a kind but knowing look. "You look like hell, Jake. Coffee?" He nodded. When she poured it, his hands still shook. "Martha, you ever hear about something weird happening up on I-17, around mile 217? Maybe a girl? Or a bicycle?" Martha froze mid-wipe, her expression unreadable. "Oh, that stretch. Every driver asks about it sooner or later. Oh, you're not seeing things." She set the mug down gently. "Her name was Mary, about 30 years ago. Just a kid trying to hitch a ride home. A Kenworth, yeah, same model as yours. Hit her right there at 3 a.m. Driver never stopped. They never found him. Just the bike, and part of her." Jake felt his throat tighten. Martha lowered her voice. "They say Mary never stayed there. She still wants that ride home. But nobody dares pick her up anymore. 'Cause if you stop, she rides with you till she reaches her destination, and she won't get out till she's there." Jake swallowed hard. "Destination? Where's that?" "North, Jake, the place she left from. About 300 miles up. She just wants to finish her last ride." Jake left the diner in silence, his thoughts spinning. He was heading south. Her destination was north. He'd gone the wrong way, and she'd caught up to him. Back in the cab, Jake grabbed a screwdriver, pried the pinky loose, cutting his hand in the process, then wrapped it in a napkin and taped it shut inside the glove box. He couldn't throw it away. Somehow he knew it was the only thing tethering him to her, or maybe keeping her from taking him entirely. As he sat back in the driver's seat, he smelled something. Not diesel, not coffee, damp earth, and lilac. Faint, old, and haunting. He looked over at the passenger seat. Empty. But under the soft glow of the dashboard lights, he saw it, a faint indentation on the leather cushion, like someone had just sat down. Jake decided to keep driving south. "I just need to get off I-17, he told himself. Make it to Phoenix, drop the load, and take a damn month off. But an hour later, things began to change. From behind the trailer came a noise. Faint at first, then heavier. A dull thud, 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 like something big shifting inside. "Just the cargo moving," he muttered. 18 wheels, yoink, happens all the time. But the sound grew rhythmic. Thump, thump, thump. It wasn't random. It was deliberate, like someone knocking from inside the trailer. Jake's pulse quickened. He glanced into the right mirror and froze. In the reflection, a pale shape flickered near the passenger window. A white dress, a smear of red, a figure standing just behind his shoulder. He jerked his head around. Nothing. Empty seat. But when he looked back into the mirror, the reflection was still there. Those black hollow eyes staring straight into his. And then, the girl nodded. Slowly. Jake grabbed the heavy flashlight from the dashboard, ready to smash the window and jump out. That's when he heard the voice. Not through the CB, not inside his head, right beside his ear. It was the voice of a young woman. Soft, melodic, but cold as ice water. "You're not going south, Jake. You're going the wrong way. You have to take me home." Jake turned toward the passenger seat. This time she wasn't a shadow. She was there, no door had opened. No sound had announced her. She was just sitting upright, hands folded neatly on her lap. In her left hand she held something small, pale and horribly familiar, her own severed pinky finger. The one Jake had pried from his windshield. Her black eyes fixed on him, and for the first time her lips curled into a smile, delicate and utterly wrong. "You stopped for me, Jake. You said yes. You have to finish the ride." Her breath was visible in the cab, a faint mist curling in the air. The scent of damp earth and lilacs thickened until it choked him. Jake tried to scream, but his throat was dry. His foot slammed the brake. The Kenworth shrieked to a halt. Mary, the ghost, didn't move. She just stared, with a calmness that was somehow worse than rage. "You stopped," she said softly. "That's the rule of the highway now. I'll show you the way." Her hand, cold as steel, rested on the wheel, not gently but firmly. The truck began to move again, slowly. Only this time Jake wasn't driving. He fought the wheel, but her strength was unreal, inhuman. The Kenworth turned around, heading north, back toward the stretch he'd tried to escape. "Easy now, Jake. You were in such a hurry. We've got plenty of time," Jake begged her, voice breaking. "Listen, please. I have a family. I'll do anything you wanted. Just let me go." Mary's eyes, black and endless, flicked toward him, and for a moment he saw sorrow. "You can't give me what I want, Jake. Except this. I just want to go home. My mother's still waiting." They drove through the night. The wanderer became a rolling coffin. Mary sat silently, guiding him past the mile markers, northbound toward the place she'd died. Every time Jake tried to veer off or slow down, invisible hands clenched the wheel. A stabbing pain shot through his chest, forcing him back into submission. By 5 a.m., the desert sky had turned gray. Mary whispered, "We're almost there." "Jake, the place I left from," she pointed to an old, unmarked exit. Nothing but a crumbling dirt road leading into a dead forest of pine. "That's the old exit to Spring Valley. That's where I caught my ride. Turn in." Jake's gut twisted. If he drove that 18-wheeler down that muddy, narrow road, he'd never make it out. He knew it. "No, Mary, I'm not going in there. You just want me to die with you." Mary turned toward him. For the first time, her empty eyes flickered, glowing faintly red, like embers. "I don't want you to die, Jake. I just want you to stay." She rose from the seat, her body dissolving into a rolling gray mist that filled the cab. The smell of soil and lilac thickened until he could barely breathe. Jake saw her face through the haze, her hair drenched, dripping, clinging to her skin. "We're going home. Jake, you can't leave me again." Her icy breath brushed his cheek. A sharp, glassy scream pierced the cab as she seized the wheel, forcing the truck toward the dirt road. Jake gathered every ounce of strength left in him. He couldn't save himself, but he could save the truck. He wrenched the wheel hard left, aiming not for the forest road, but for the steel barrier along the highway. Screech! Tires screamed. Metal twisted. The engine roared in agony. Glass shattered. Mary screamed too, this time not in anger, but in pain. The wanderer tore through the guardrail, flipped, and crashed among the rocks. Then, darkness. When Jake came to, sunlight was streaming through the shattered windshield. Diesel fumes and dust filled the air. He was alive, barely. The Kenworth lay on its side. Cargo scattered across the rocks. A passing driver found him and called for help. Weeks later, after countless hospital visits, Jake never climbed back into a truck again. Doctors said he had PTSD, nightmares, hallucinations, trauma. But Jake knew better. The police found no red Schwinn bicycle, no severed finger, no trace of anyone else. They ruled it driver fatigue. Case closed. But there was something strange. When Jake returned to the Rattlesnake Grill to collect his things, Martha handed him his leather jacket. "It's still damp." "Jake, smells awful." He sniffed it. Diesel, coffee, and beneath it, that same sweet, suffocating scent of lilac and wet earth. He knew then he'd escaped death, but not her. From that day on, Jake lived in sleepless nights, staring into the dark, listening to faint tapping sounds, a soft, steady tuck, 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 like a single pinky finger against chrome. 2 years later, Jake was working as a night security guard at a warehouse outside Phoenix. At 3:17 a.m., he turned on the radio. A local news report came through. A Authorities are investigating a strange truck accident on Interstate 17 near mile marker 217. The driver claims he stopped to help a barefoot girl in the middle of the road, but no one else was found at the scene. The truck was overturned and eerily an old red Schwinn bicycle was discovered standing upright in the lane, its front wheel still spinning slowly. Jake turned off the radio, closed his eyes. He knew. The ghost didn't want him dead. She just wanted a ride home, and once she's in your truck, she never gets out. Mary's still out there and on Highway 17, waiting for the next kind-hearted driver to stop, waiting to finish her last terrible journey. And maybe, just maybe, a part of her is still sitting in that dark blue Kenworth cab, waiting for Jake to come back and settle the debt of the road.